All right, so everybody, thanks so much for listening. I'm really excited to have this man on. But before we get into my excitement and the man we're going to have on in just a second, please like, subscribe, and share this interview on the podcasting sites, on YouTube also. If you're listening to us on one of the radio stations, the 30 or so that play our interviews, we greatly appreciate that. And again, you can't like or subscribe, but you can tell your friends and family and people around you. And I greatly appreciate that. as we but we'll move into the interview, and as we move into that interview, we have Scott Ski. He has a amazing story. He's worked and he can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he has worked with animals and dogs in general for over 20 years, helping them find homes, helping them in general. He has the book out. It's Dogged and Determined, Dogged and Determined. Definitely check it out. It's really an amazing story. And Scott, thanks so much for coming on. I'm excited about this.
My pleasure. And do you prefer Rob or Fire Breath, or what would you
You could
like?
just call me Rob. It's nice and
Okay,
easy
that's
and quick.
great.
Slides right off the tongue. but we'll,
Okay.
we'll move
Oh
into this.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
Go
Scott.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, same thing with Scott Ski. It just rolls right off the tongue, and we're good. So go right ahead.
All right, so Scott, let's kick this around and talk about your story in general. But before we get into the book, tell the viewers a little bit about you and how your love for dogs and animals came about.
My long time and long suffering partner, Robbie, she and I have been together for 45 years.
Wow.
And yeah, and she has always loved dogs and had dogs and cats and such around. And her particular passion is Siberian Huskies.
Hmm.
So she had a Siberian Husky. It had passed away. And we decided, there were so many of them in the shelters
Oh, yeah.
that we should try to do something about it. We could educate people, because Siberian Huskies are not your typical, lap dog home. These are animals that were bred to survive in the harshest environment on the planet. In the Arctic, they think for themselves. If you have a sled dog team and you take them down to the river and you say, go across, and they understand, wait, the ice is too thin, or there's a bear around the next bend up here, or something else, you can beat them half to death and they're not going to move, because they understand the environment better than you do. Now, in our home environment, they will understand things a lot better than you do also. Oh, I know that there's cookies in that particular item over there. Or when you pick up the keys, that means you are leaving in the CAR. My Huskies are of such a degree that they understand a vocabulary of 250 words. 250
Wow.
words. I have to spell words. I cannot say
Right.
I have to say, Robbie, shall we take the DOGs to the DOGPARK? And she'll say, yeah, but we may want to stop and get them some mini TACOs just to calm them down a little bit so they don't get too rowdy. Things of that nature. They know words. We have to spell words out because they understand things far better than we do in a lot of cases. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're great. But talking about the animal rescue, working in it for 20 years, I'm sure you saw some good stories come out of working in that field, but also a lot of horrific stories. Can you go into that and talk a little bit about that?
The cover of the book over my shoulder here,
Right.
the dog in that particular picture there is not my old man Taz, who passed away many, many, many years ago. That is a dog that is one of the leftovers from our 20 years in animal rescue.
Mm.
His name is Mongoose. Mongoose was thrown out of a moving car at age 5 months old,
Sheep.
and shattered his leg.
disgusting.
And the shelter had called us up, and this is like the night before Thanksgiving. And they called us up and said, "Hi, we close at 5 o'clock. We have no vet here on premises. If you do not pick up the dog by 5 o'clock, we have to put it down because we can't let it suffer all night with a broken leg." So yes, I raced raced out several cities, 25 miles down the road to pick up that dog. That dog is now 13 years old. And it's
Wow.
because it was damaged, we really couldn't adopt it out. So it's still with us after all this time. So yes, the neglected, the injured, the sick, the old, I mean, you name it, we would go through and we'd find good homes for literally hundreds and hundreds of dogs. And I'd have to say the toughest thing that I had to do through all of this was I would go to a shelter and I'd have to leave some behind. I couldn't take them all. I couldn't save them all. So I had to sit down and determine which ones were adoptable, which ones would be the best for a home situation, and which ones would I reluctantly have to pass on. So, yeah, it's very, very tough. You know, we never got married, we never had children, but we brought joy to hundreds and hundreds of families and homes because of the dogs that we saved from death. And the dogs knew that they were saved from death too.
Yeah, talk about that because I we've done quite a few interviews about dogs, but also a lot of people that are helping dogs, such as yourself. And the dogs and the cats, any animals in general that you save, that you put into a home, they really know that. They know that that's their family. And it's almost like they know that you saved them. Can you talk about that and how you feel that is? Because a lot of people don't really believe that, but I think those are the people that have never had pets in their life.
uh, Dogs and cats,
Right.
um, they have a degree of understanding, and they know your face, they know your voice,
Yeah.
they can interpret some words, but they interpret tones, and they know the tone of your voice and what you are saying to them and such. And yes, when they are sitting at death's door in a cage for a couple weeks and they know that time is running out and suddenly that door opens and you're taking them out and putting them in a car and telling them you're going to be okay, it
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world to them. And then like I said, with huskies are a very difficult breed to work with. They are
Right.
very dynamic looking, and everybody loves the way they look, but they don't obey, they don't listen, they think independently for themselves. So we would take a dog and we'd work with it for at least a month to make sure it knows how to sit, how to stay, how to come when it's called. Because if the dog is across the street and there's a car coming and it doesn't come right away, that's death. You have to make sure that the dog knows to listen and obey first time, every time, and that sort of thing. And then you have to train the new owner to do the same thing, to follow those instructions because you want the dog to be successful. You want the family to be successful. You can't just pull a dog out of a shelter and assume that it's going to be, you know, like you and I.
Yeah.
They are eternal 2-year-old children. And if you've been around 2-year-old children, you know how miserable they can be and how miserable they make your life too. But they're still children and you still love them and you still work with them and you still care about them. And eventually you hope they'll grow up and be good and responsible citizens, which is what we hope with the dogs. And once again, I'm rambling. So
No, no, it's totally fine. And I appreciate you going into this again, Skotsky. The book is Dogged and Determined. You can see it, obviously, if you're listening to us on the YouTube. If not, you can definitely check out. And we're going to get to where you can get the book and find more about Scott in general in just a moment. But I do want to talk a little bit more about this because it's very important, and then we'll move away from this topic about, working with the rescue. But, what do you feel like is going through these people's minds that let these dogs go? Like you said with Mongoose, that he got thrown out of the car at a high speed, but thrown out of car in general is pretty sick. Are these people like mentally imbalanced? Like, I know we can't think in everyone's mind of what they're doing, but you used to work in the shelter. You've been there for over 20 years. What were you hearing from these people that got I can't comprehend getting rid of any of our dogs, I mean, it's part of the family. It's very hard for me to do. Even if I was very down on my luck, I would do everything to keep that dog in my life because it is a child, whether, in
Yes.
general.
Yeah. I do not understand people who, I mean, I can understand people who are not attracted to dogs and cats or pets in general, and consider them to be a nuisance or whatever. But to be outright cruel to another animal is just beyond the pale. And yeah, I frequently come upon people who are like that, who abandon animals and such. We had a dog, a cat who was sitting outside of a department store on Christmas Eve about 9 p.m. at night. The store was about to close. And it was sitting there like it was waiting for someone to come out of the store and pick it up.
Hmm.
But nobody came and the store was closing. So my partner and I decided, okay, we're going to take the cat home and keep it, because if it stays out here, the store was next to a cemetery, and wild animals hang around cemeteries and such. So we knew the cat would probably not survive the night if it was left out in the dark. So we brought it home, and it remained with us for 14 years. You know, it was we named it Rossi because it was found outside of a Ross department store.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Ross.
yeah,
Yeah, I know Ross. Yeah.
and we uh, one time we came home and there were two kittens in the gutter in the house in front of the house next door to us. I mean, just like they had been tossed there and they didn't know what to do, where to go, or whatever. We brought them in. And yes, they've been with us for well over 10 years. This sort of thing. Like I said, we
Do
at
you
one
feel
time
like I just want to interrupt you, Scott,
oh,
and
please.
I'd like to have you get back to the story, but do you feel like this is your calling? I don't know if you're religious, but regardless if you are in your life, like you said, you never had kids, but this seems like this is your calling, that you love animals and you want to take care of them, and they spread you joy and you spread joy back to them.
I'm not exactly Saint Francis of Assisi, but
Right.
I do have a hankering for animals, and
Yeah.
I appreciate them very much. One of the things I can say is that I've never made a penny off the book. All of my profits have always gone towards animal rescue efforts,
Yeah.
myself or others, because that's the way that we keep this going. That's the way we educate others. That's the way we create appreciation. Um, we have a dog now named Coda who came back. He had been adopted out 10 years ago. I didn't even remember this dog. But the woman, literally on her deathbed, 2 hours away from passing away, had her handlers contact us and say, would you please take the dog back and maybe find it another home? Yes, it's 11 years old now, but it's a dog that has been loved all this time, and you're the people who found it for me. Please. And of course, we immediately went out and got the dog, and I still have it now. Um, that's just the nature of what you do, what we do, what you do when you are in love with pets and animals. You see a stray, you have to stop. Even if it's a dog on the freeway or something, you pull over and you find a way to get to the dog and get the dog to safety. If there's a cat, one of the stories in in my book is a kitten who got out a window, and we live in a two-story Victorian home, very steep um, roof, and the kitten climbed all the way to the peak of the roof
Wow.
and was sitting up there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to rescue the kitten. It's so I'm working to get an extension ladder up, out on the balcony. And oh my gosh, I've got to hurry, and so on and so forth. And as I'm struggling up the staircase with this big bulky ladder, suddenly the little kitten comes racing by me. And I thought, what the heck? What happened? And I turned to my partner, Robbie, who's, of course, my better three quarters.
Yeah.
I said, what happened? She says, oh, I just leaned out the window and opened a can of cat food. And the cat came right down and came right in the house. Like, and that's what makes this book so delightful for so many readers, is that the dogs and cats always outsmart me.
Nice.
This is not like Marley and me, this is a husky from hell and his minions, and they always outsmart me. I'm the foil every step of the way. And when I first adopted Taz, he was the husky from hell. Every time I turned around, he was just destroying. So I had a house, and now it was becoming a gazebo, because he was tearing it up so much. And
Yeah.
I would write my adventures, about what he had done, and I posted it to a global Siberian Husky group, 10,000 members, called Cybernet.
Wow.
And I said, help. Can you guys help? Not only did they not help, they said, we're delighted with the stories that you're writing. Please write more. It's like, really? So I ended up making it kind of like a weekly series, because the dog was always causing problems. And it ran for 6 years. And that is what this book resulted from. 6 years, and these are the 78 best stories that I had. And I'll probably come out with volume 2, 3, or 4 down the road. But the staying power, the timelessness of these stories, I'll say it right up. This book was written 20 years ago.
Wow.
And this book was just re-released 2 years ago as a 20th anniversary version. And it is receiving amazing amounts of publicity from people like yourself and others who understand and see and enjoy and relish sharing stories about the pets that they love.
You've written this book again, Dogged and Determined. Definitely check it out. What do you hope people, when they read this, and this book has been out for quite so long, you re-releasing it, people really enjoy this book. But for the new people, what do you hope they get out of this book and learn?
I hope that they come away with a greater appreciation for animals in general, for
Yeah.
their pets in particular, and that if they are so inclined or have the ability, go out and rescue a dog or a cat, a couple of them, keep them close, show them love and devotion, and share that love with others, their friends, family, whatever, because our pets are our family. And, you know, it's one of those situations that never ends. And it is, not only doesn't end, it always keeps giving back to us in ways that we rarely see in advance or understand, but it's a gift, and we should always appreciate our gifts, the gifts of our pets.
Scott Ski here on Fire Breathing Rob. Scott, where can people find the book, find more about you, social media, Facebook, Instagram, the website, everything? Just give it to us right now.
Oh, scottski.net, pretty easy. Just scottski.net. I'm there with my haphazard website and such. The book, Amazon. Just jump right on in. It's there for a variety of used and new versions of it or whatever. You can. I know some people write to me and ask me, "Can you sign a copy for me?" and such. Yes, you can. Email me at ski at scottski.net, ski at scottski.net, and request a signed copy. We can work out the details on payments and whatever later on or whatever. Anyway, yes, and I am available for other interviews and things of that nature. Obviously, I'm looking forward to having a lot more interviews with you, Rob, and sharing our mutual love for our pets.
Yes, for sure, 100%. And like I said, this will not be the last time. A Skotsky, Dogged and Determined. Definitely check out the book. And also, you can find Scott on scottsky.net.
Great.
Definitely check it out. It's worth the read. And I hope people do look at the website too. And they can buy the book on the website, correct? Too? Your website?
No, they can't, but that's
Oh,
okay. Like I said, email me or whatever, and we'll work out details. Most people just go to Amazon,
right.
buy it right off of Amazon. So,
All
yeah.
right, Scott Ski, thanks so much. ScottSki.net, and definitely check out the book Dogged and Determined. Scott, thanks so much, and I look forward to our next interview.
Thank you, Rob. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.